From our State House studio in Montgomery, I'm Todd Stacy. Welcome to Capitol Journal. Tomorrow is the final day of the Alabama Legislature's 2025 regular session. The House and Senate are scheduled to gavel in at 1 o'clock, and they'll have until midnight to conduct legislative business. We'll start our preview coverage in the Senate, which adjourned last week with more than 50 local bills waiting to pass and key confirmations still unresolved. One of the key sticking points, slowing down business, is Senate Minority Leader Bobby Singleton voicing frustration over the House's refusal to act on his Greene County gambling bill. Senate President Pro Tem Garland Gudger is preparing for an extended day and has not ruled out using cloture to break through any further delays and ensure final votes on priority legislation. Both Gudger and Singleton say they want a peaceful and productive end to the session. But with tensions still high, that may be easier said than done.
Possibility of being a long day next week?
Yes.
Busy 11 hours.
We're going to come in at 1 o'clock, just so you'll know, and we'll probably be here until we get through with everything we've got.
What about the police immunity bill?
There's going to probably be some talk about that. We're trying to figure out if that's going to be on there. Plus, we have some confirmations that we have to do. That's our duty in the Senate that we're going to have to focus on, too. We're trying to make sure that we keep the peace, and by doing that, maybe we'll get through every one of those bills. So I'm still optimistic that we'll get through them.
Any statewide bills that are our priority?
As of right now, the local legislation is my main priority because all politics is local, and we want to make sure that we try to take care of our members here and the members in the House.
This is just really not in my nature to do this because I really don't want to stop anybody's local bills. But at the end of the day, I appreciate the pro tem and other members of my body for going downstairs trying to talk to their members in the leadership. But obviously they don't want to listen. They keep coming up with excuses and saying, well, it's a statewide bill. It should have been a constitutional amendment. We've gone through that bill over and over again. I've explained to them what this bill does. Even LSA have told them what this bill does and does not do, and they still want to come up with these excuses. So if they want to play that game, I'm here to play it with them.
So you have 11 hours basically next week. Even with cloture, you think you could fill that time?
I can feel that time. I can feel it.
In the House, lawmakers are mostly finished with their legislative business, but they'll be awaiting action from the Senate on bills that have to come back downstairs for a final concurrence vote. Bills on immigration and crime are of particular importance to House Speaker Nathaniel Ledbetter, who said he hoped to work out a game plan with his Senate counterpart.
Clearing the calendar and getting all the bills out of the basket and sending those to the governor's office. So I think, closing the session, you always get down to the final few bills, and everybody's wanting to get theirs out that they don't have out. And so certainly working with those, trying to see what we can do. We'll come back Wednesday and try to finish up what we've been doing this session, and I think we'll have a successful day and complete a successful session. We've got 3 or 4 bills, I think, that we'd like to see get through the Senate, and I'm sure they've got that many they'd like to see get through the House. So I'll work with the pro tem and see what their needs are and what's big issues for them, and we'll have a sit down and have a chance to talk. We talked this week about coming in probably, so we'll be coming on Wednesday. He and I probably meet on Tuesday before we come in the last day and sit down and go over what we think we can accomplish and what we can get done. And we got 3 or 4 bills I think is major for us, and they probably have got that many. So our goal is to try to finish those up.
Alabama Public Television will soon air a new documentary on the political career of former Governor Jim Folsom Jr. A Legacy of Progress, the Jim Folsom story, highlights the consequential career of Alabama's 50th governor, including his crowning achievement of landing Mercedes. Here's a clip.
Jim Folsom Jr. first entered the political arena in the 1970s. After graduating from Jacksonville State University, he began his career in public service.
When I became lieutenant governor, I was 37 years old at this point.
In the 1980s, the lieutenant governor was a tremendously powerful position.
They gave the autonomy of organizing the Senate to the lieutenant governor. That means he organized the Senate and gave the committee assignments, which is the most important thing of a 35-member Senate.
Jim's accomplishment would be more than enough to get him reelected to a second term as lieutenant governor. But just 2 years into that term, everything would change.
I, James E. Folsom Jr.
I really never thought that I would become governor by ascending to the office that way.
We can count on every Friday afternoon an ethics complaint being filed.
Well, I'm not concerned about that there's going to be anything, wrong.
His opponents didn't want him to be elected in '94. So they were softening the ground to weaken him as a political candidate in '94.
Governor Folsom needed a win. He needed it fast. In 1993, Mercedes-Benz made a monumental decision.
The company had decided to build a manufacturing plant, its first outside of Germany in the U.S.
Jim Folsom Jr. has a very, very definitive legacy in Alabama history. When he brought Mercedes here, he laid the groundwork for Alabama becoming the second largest and soon to be the largest manufacturing of automobiles in the United States of America. If that's not a legacy, I don't know what is.
Certainly look forward to seeing that. We're still waiting for an air date for that documentary in the summer here on APT. And there's a special premiere of the documentary tomorrow evening at the Department of Archives and History, where Governor Folsom himself will be in attendance with his wife, Marcia. Hope we can break away from the session to drop in there. And we'll be right back with tonight's guest. Stay with us.
You can watch past episodes of Capital Journal online at video.aptv.org. Capital Journal episodes are also available on APTV's free mobile app. You can also connect with Capital Journal and link to past episodes on Capital Journal's Facebook page. And you can listen to past episodes of Capital Journal when you're driving or on the go with Capital Journal podcasts. Keep up with what's happening with Capital Journal.
Welcome back to Capital Journal. Joining me next is Vic Wilson, Executive Director of CLASS, Council of Leaders in Alabama Schools. Vic, thanks for coming on the show.
Todd, thanks for having me. I love being on your show.
Well, and I should say outgoing Executive Director. You have announced your retirement, so sadly you're leaving CLASS and leaving a career in public education. I want to get to that in a minute, but before we do, let's talk about this year in the legislature. A big year for education. It always kind of is, but some big initiatives passed. Thinking about the RAISE Act, thinking about banning cell phones in schools, more on the Principals Act and everything. So talk about it from your organization's perspective this year in the legislature.
Well, Todd, as with every year, there's some things that come out that we like, some things that we don't, some things we're okay with. A couple of things, the RAISE Act that you mentioned, that is going to hopefully change the way we're funded and get the money to the needs of each school, students with special needs or poverty or EL. So I'm excited about that. I also am excited about the way they did that. It was truly 2+ years of studying the funding that we have in our state and how to make it better. I don't know if we've got the perfect answer, but we have an answer, and it's one that everybody can live with, and I think moving down the road can help us meet the needs of our students better. So I'm excited about that. I think that Senator Orr and Representative Garrett did a good job of putting together a team to study that. I know that Mark was heavily involved in that, and so was SSA, and I think their leadership really, really helped move the needle and get to something that kind of coalesced that we can all use and all be happy with moving forward.
Sure. And I should have back up and say, when you talk about your members, you're talking about principals, right? Administrators in Alabama schools. And talk about that, because what was their feedback from some of that? I know a lot of that has to do with like superintendent level and board level in terms of head counts and funding levels and all that kind of stuff. But they're the ones, your members are the ones that have to actually implement educating students instruction. And so when it comes to students in poverty, English language learners, special needs, gifted, those categories of students, what's been your feedback from them about having different funding formula?
Well, the funding formula itself is a little bit scary in education. We're not only sometimes risk averse, we're no risk whatsoever.
Yeah, you start talking about funding levels, people get really nervous.
We may not like the funding formula we have, but it's the one we know. So for years, class, like you mentioned, Council of Leaders in Alabama Schools, we have school leaders from 13 different affiliates. So we have special education directors, principals, gifted. We have all of that under our umbrella. So every member is going to be touched by this new funding formula. They were all for anything that helped us increase their needs to meet the needs of the students. And that, I think, you know, based on what I'm seeing, I think that's what we're going to get out of this. I think we're going to get something that's going to help us with those special needs kids, the gifted kids, EL, and poverty. And those are 4 big rocks, so to speak, that everybody deals with. So you're going to be able to get that funding to help you when you have to have someone else to help with EL, or another aide to help with special needs, or someone who can actually be dedicated towards gifted. That's going to help us meet the needs of those students.
Yeah, a big, big reform I think we're going to be talking about for years to come. And it passed kind of easily, which was kind of surprising. Talk about the cell phone ban, because again, a lot of your members are going to be the ones having to implement this. Seems like a common sense thing, but maybe not as easy, maybe easier said than done in terms of implementation. What was y'all's take on the cell phone ban?
Our take is simple, that as long as you give us some rules, okay, and allow some local control to implement those rules, we can handle that. Some of our systems already have very effective cell phone policies in place, and this law won't change what they're doing. They already have a yonder pouch or something that is a bell-to-bell cell phone ban. The bottom line is getting kids engaged back in the learning, having conversations with their peers and their teachers face-to-face, as opposed to doing it on a cell phone. There's a time and place for everything, but sitting in the classroom, being able to have conversations and work with your teacher, work with your peers, that really is going to help enhance our learning, I think.
And I think it wouldn't be as big of an issue if you were talking about just like flip phones, or but these smartphones that have all the apps that hold their attention, have all the Instagram and so much bullying going on and all that kind of stuff. I think that makes it that much more of a problem. So it's going to be interesting to see how that gets implemented. You know, one of your legacies as leader of class was the Principal Act that passed last year. How's been explain what that was and how it's been implemented this year?
Several years ago, the legislature passed the Literacy Act, and many of us were very concerned about that. We weren't necessarily as involved as we would have liked to have been. Over time, that has proven to be something that's helped move the needle. Okay, I think it's a hallmark piece of legislation. A couple of years later, they began work on the Numeracy Act, and in looking at the bill in its original form, it had a lot of leadership components in it that would have forced principals to focus, especially at the elementary and middle school level, on numeracy at the expense of the very literacy that we had just passed. So in talking with Senator Orr, he was willing to pull the leadership piece out of the numeracy and do a standalone.
Okay.
Because we knew that, like a three-legged stool, our education rests on the folks in the building, the teachers and the principals, and what they're teaching, literacy, numeracy, and teaching, those 3 pieces, and leadership's a big piece of that. So we wanted to have components in there that would allow us to do that. So the leadership piece came about in an effort to increase the learning of principals and increase the compensation for the extra learning and the extra work that they were doing. It started out with principals and assistant principals, and then we had conversations about areas of high need, much like national board certification. In fact, the wording is written to mirror that of national board certification. So whatever the poverty levels were, people in those same places would get the same funding. Subsequent to that, the rules changed at the federal level, and you went from basically 40% that would be eligible for that to about 80% because of CEP, and they raised the cap greatly.
How you classify poverty?
That's correct.
Okay.
And
so principals that used to be in technical poverty schools weren't anymore.
Actually, the original went the other way.
Oh, okay.
Principals that weren't in high poverty were being classified as poverty,
I see.
which raised that up and was costing more than the original bill had intended to cost. So they wanted to go back. I wasn't necessarily in favor of it. Obviously, I've got members who are counting on that money, and I believe the current administration federally may lower that cap back down, which if they do that, it gets it back to where it was intended to begin with. So that remains to be seen in that regard. I know that they kept in place the rules and the stipend that's associated with the Principal Act. The only thing that changed is that secondary, that extra one for high poverty or high needs. And that literally came about because of hard to staff places. Senator Orr and Representative Garrett were very much on board with, making sure that we have something that helps people who need to stay in high, if you're doing a great job in a very hard to staff or high poverty area, let's incentivize you to stay there. But when the rules changed, it kind of made that go away, quite frankly. If I'm going to get the same thing for being at a school that doesn't have as high, so I get why they did it, I just don't necessarily like money coming back away from.
Sure.
And they're working to get that money.
I would imagine so, and we'll see what happens at the federal level. But the concept makes so much sense because, look, and Literacy Act, Numeracy Act, I think everybody agrees with the direction they're going. But if, in any job you're doing, if your boss comes around and asks you to do more, and there's no more compensation, that doesn't feel good. If you want to be compensated for that extra work you're doing, it only makes sense. Plus, I imagine it helps you recruit people to actually step into those roles, go from a teacher to that administrator role, which is obviously so important.
That's true. We told everybody who would listen that today's teachers shortage, several years ago, is tomorrow's leadership shortage, and that's what we're seeing. So this act is going to help compensate and hopefully draw more people into the principal and assistant principal role. And not only that, keep them there. When you are working hard and you're getting compensated fairly for it, it makes it difficult to go to another position because you're getting paid for a very, very, very tough job. And you're trying to move the needle for the kids under your care and student growth, student achievement, and culture and climate. And at the end of the day, that's what we want so that our learning can soar.
Absolutely. Okay, like I mentioned, you're retiring at the end of June, right?
June 30th, that's correct.
Well, congratulations on that, but that also means you can say anything you want. I'm curious about some of your thoughts on education in general and the direction, maybe some of your advice, but walk me through your career as a public educator. Where did it start and where all have you been?
Well, I got my start in Tuscaloosa County Schools at Collins Riverside Junior High School.
Okay.
James I. Davis. I was doing my student teaching there under him with Coach Griffin, Mike Griffin, who later became, he and Linda became godparents for our oldest child.
Wow.
Got my start right there, taught English and history and coached football, basketball, and track. Whatever they asked me to coach, I was like, sure, I'll coach it. I'll do that. Did that for 3 years, then went to Shelby County High School for 1 year and taught AP US history and did some coaching as well. And then had an opportunity to go to Homewood. Mike Hathorn, one of my mentors, also hired me. Dr. Jody Newton was assistant superintendent, later became the superintendent. I was there for 6 years. I taught for 3 and then was the assistant principal at Homewood Middle School.
So that's what got you into administration.
Dr. Jody Newton kind of asked me to consider doing that, and it was just a great opportunity, and did that for the middle school, and then went to Mount Brook High School as the assistant principal to high school for 4 years, and then went to Homewood High School as the principal, then back to Mountain Brook High School as the principal for 5 years, and then had an opportunity to go back closer to home in Hartselle, Alabama to be the superintendent. Loved it up there, great little town. I've loved all my stops, I really have. I mean, I'm a believer in, love your job and love where you are, where you're planted and things like that. Had an opportunity to do that for 4 years, and then when Dr. Earl Franks retired, I applied for this job and was fortunate enough to get it, and have been doing it now for 8 years and have really loved it. I have loved, so that gives me about almost 34 years in public education and ready to do something else.
Sure. What's one thing that you wish more people knew about teaching in a classroom or serving as an administrator in a school, whether that means more Alabamians in general, just general public, or more lawmakers? What's something that you wish more people understood about being an educator in Alabama?
How much the teachers and educators in our state love their job and the kids. We can find outliers in any walk of life for everything, but the vast majority, I mean 99.9% of everybody that deals with and works with our students love what they do and want to be able to move the needle and help our children move forward and help our society move forward and help us become better at what we do. We're experts in our field. If a doctor gives me a recommendation, I don't simply say, I know better, I'll do this. I may verify, but I'm going to have, sometimes if an educator gives a recommendation, people look at you like, well, I know better. And that's not always the case. I learn from parents and parents learn from me. I learn from legislators and legislators learn from me. So it goes back to that balance about if you get a good opinion from an educator, it's not just coming from an opinion, it's coming from fact-based, experience-based. So I would say that the vast majority of the people in education involved in it love their job and love their kids.
Again, you can say whatever you want. You're 1 foot out the door. What advice might you have for young educators or those even thinking of becoming educators about how to go about that career from someone who's done it?
I think you have to be a good listener. You also have to be active in getting ready to go when you have an idea. I think you need to build strong relationships. I think it's important that you have a good vision of what you want for those under your care, and you continue to work your knowledge base. We talk about learning. I think that the one thing that I see in a leader that makes me go, wow, that's somebody I want to be around, is a lifelong learning mindset. They're constantly learning. They're wanting to get better at whatever they do. And I hope that's what we have. I hope we have an understanding and an idea that I've been the principal at X place for 12 years. Hopefully I don't have 1 year 12 times. Hopefully I've got 12 years of growth and I'm not doing everything the same way I did it in year 1. Some things there may be. There may be some things that are tried and true methods that we all do. I get up and drink my coffee every morning. I don't care what the studies say or any study like that. Not changing that. I may change where I do it, how I do it, some of those kinds of things. So hopefully we're able to grow, keep those things that ground us, and enhance those things with all the new and everything like that. That's something I think that we can, again, it goes back to me being very optimistic. So for young people, I would say find you a mentor. Okay, find you a mentor who has been there, who knows the way, who can show the way, who can go the way. Find you someone who has had success and learn from them. Make them, learn, ask them questions, but also watch, listen, and learn.
It's good advice. Well, again, congratulations. And I know that the organization class has selected a successor. Can you tell me who that's going to be?
I can. We're going to be in great hands. I'm a big believer in Colin's good to great. I took my position and tried to enhance those things that Dr. Earl Franks had done. He did the same with Dr. John Draper before him, and I've tried to do that. And hopefully Dr. Farrell Seymour, who is the current superintendent for Opelika City Schools, will be able to do that. I know he will be able to do that. He is an exceptional leader. He has far greater experiences at this point in his career than I ever had. He's been a middle school principal, a high school principal, a superintendent. He's been on the Alabama High School Athletic Association Board of Control. He is a very good leader, someone that can take the organization and grow it. We're also in great hands because of, I believe in hiring great people. Recruit, hire, grow, and retain the best possible staff. That's the number one thing that a leader should do. And 2 years ago, I was fortunate to get Whitney Miller Nichols. After working on the principal bill by myself, I realized that's not happening again. Went out and was able to find her, and she has been amazing. She does a fabulous job with all things legislation. I do believe that with her, Dr. D'Amica Sanders, who is our Assistant Executive Director in charge of all the professional learning, class is going to be in great hands.
That's good to hear. I look forward to meeting the new leader. We're out of time. Vic, congratulations on a fantastic career, and we'll look forward to seeing you maybe playing some music in your retirement.
Can't wait, Todd. Thank you so much.
You bet. We'll be right back.
You can watch past episodes of Capitol Journal online anytime at Alabama Public Television's website, aptv.org. Click on the Online Video tab on the main page. You can also connect with Capitol Journal and link to past episodes on Capitol Journal's Facebook page.
Alabama Public Television is your place for quality educational services. Free professional development for educators and child care providers. Access to free curriculum-aligned videos, lesson plans, and instructional resources with PBS Learning Media. And all the PBS Kids programs parents know and trust. Learn something new every day with Alabama Public Television. Visit us at aptv.org/education to learn more.
That's our show for tonight. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow night for the final day of the legislative session right here on APT. For our Capitol Journal team, I'm Todd Stacy. We'll see you next time.